Hello guys, it's Jake Oliver here with another TF2 video. So a couple of weeks ago I made a TF2 tips and tricks video about engineer buildings, and in that video I had a poll regarding how many hours you have in TF2, and from that it turns out a lot more of you guys have 1,000+ hours are in that group. So in this video I'm going to tell you what I think are the key differences between a casual player and a competitive player. As well, in this video there's also another poll if you want to take part, and that will be to determine if you are a casual player, a competitive player, or if you dabble in a bit of both. So without further ado, these are the 5 main points I'd say that separate a casual and a competitive player. There are others, but these are the main talking points. I guess some of the others you can get by without. Number 1, reading loadouts. This is something you become more and more aware of with time just playing TF2. You learn to look at loadouts at a glance and be able to assume how that player is going to play seconds before they even decide to attack you. Competitive players have to be able to do this constantly so they know how to respond to events and can inform their team so they can compensate for this. A casual player will do this also, but they won't be as fast as a competitive player, just because in casual games there's a lot of people, as you'd say, not try-harding. There's a lot of free-to-plays, there's a lot of people that are just there to have a good time. They're not there to go mental or anything like that. You can always perform better, I guess. So it's less important, but still something you would know as a casual player. You will notice that some players will go and attack you, and then they'd completely change how they're going to attack you, and you have to be able to read from their weapons what they are going to do next based on what they have or what they could potentially do. This is, as I say, less important in casual games, and a competitive player sometimes will even overread a weapon loadout in a casual game just because they're so used to making adjustments and counters in a competitive scene. Point number 2, weapon choices. Now we'll come back to this later as well, but weapon choices in competitive TF2 are very boring. They are very meta. Meta is tried and tested and true, basically. There is even a list of banned weapons that you can't use based on which league you're playing in. These restrictions in loadouts, and players only want in low risk reward weapons that they can afford to use, basically, ends up with you having very predictable playstyles. For example, if I subbed as a scout once for a Highlander team and I had the wrong melee weapon, so they asked me to change or leave on scout, the worst melee class in the game with no melees that offer much of a buff. If you want me to do a very basic video covering the boring meta loadouts for competitive TF2, then comment below. But the main thing is, like, competitive TF2 players will use the same weapon loadouts, stock rocket launcher or black box with probably buff banner and shovel or equalizer. Something along those lines. Point number 3. Map analysis. This is arguably the most important difference between a casual and a competitive player, their knowledge of a map. Map knowledge is much more than just knowing how to get to the objective. It's about knowing the health and ammo spots, knowing the flank route, map tricks, common spots for certain classes. These are little details that literally everyone will have to have an understanding of. Everyone will have an understanding of it, but it's being able to identify, every corridor, every open, every section, every overhead, and know how to react, how to get about, what to expect. Or around that corner is usually a sentry. I might not be able to hear it because the walls are thicker on this bit of the map, but I'm pretty sure there'll be a sentry there. Little stuff like that is very, very helpful. It's why I do the map tips and tricks, the map walkthrough videos. They are very basic versions, but I have done competitive ones in the past, and map knowledge is definitely a massive, massive advantage for any player. Number 4, player assumptions. Now this is arguably just as important as reading a loadout. It's reading your opponents to make an assumption about how they are going to play. So it's not just the weapons. Anyone can accidentally take the back burner and the scorch shot, or the flamethrower, or the degreaser and the flare gun. That doesn't necessarily mean they're going to go puff and sting on you. If you're fighting a scout as a demo man, and that scout's running and jumping a certain pattern around you, you might even be able to place a sticky bomb for a scout to land on perfectly, just waiting for the pattern to re-loop so they come back and land on the sticky bomb. In a lot of circumstances, people will make an assumption based on cosmetic items which aren't necessarily correct. seeing as anyone can buy expensive items and still suck at the game, like myself. When it comes to your player assumptions, you need to see the way that they play, the way they're jumping, the way that they're rocket jumping, the way they're not playing, the things that they've not done. You know, medics in particular are quite easy to read if they're a good medic or a not medic, a bad medic. It's almost instant with medics. Basically trying to do that, but with other classes, you do eventually pick up on how to do it and the things that you should look out for, but it does take time. Number 5. Final point I've already touched on, meta. This is probably one of the main reasons I'm not as active in the competitive scene as I usually am, that and time restrictions. Meta is basically the fundamental basic styles and loadouts of playing competitive games and how the meta is regarded as the best. It's not the best maybe because it's overpowered, because overpowered weapons would be banned in competitive play, but they've got a good level of risk reward to them, so they're usually regarded to as the meta way of playing. As a result, most teams will all attempt to play the exact same way, as it can make games very dull, because there's not just a meta weapon loadout class, there's a meta in play style. You know, the scout should go there, the soldier should do this, the heavy should be doing this while they're doing that. There's a meta way of playing. And this is also one of the reasons that competitive players can sometimes come across a little bit lost when they return to casual after some time. And it's just because they're so used to playing against people that are all trying to play the exact same way with the exact same loadouts. So seeing all the wacky weapon loadouts, all the free-to-play play styles, and all just the weirdness that can happen in a casual server, they can sometimes come across as, oh, he looks a bit confused and lost in the scene. Anyway, that does it for this week's video, guys. The gap between casual and competitive players. So tell me what you think of competitive TF2 scene in the comments down below. Be sure to do that poll in the corner if you would like. That will help me with future videos. And I'm trying to do this thing where I randomly shout out one of you guys. So this week's shout out goes to Quaz Boeing. These little shout outs are just for random people in my YouTube notifications and can be for anything as a comment to a subscription. So I guess the more active you are, the higher the chance you are of a silly little shout out from a tiny TF2 YouTuber. I've been J Caliber. I'll catch you maybe midweek for a bonus video and Sunday for my next TF2 video. Adios.